The savage alpha said to his trembling mate, "Don't fear me. I'll claim love, touch every part of you until even your soul knows my name." She was a runaway omega who feared touch, until the savage alpha who ruled the wilds promised to make her body and soul remember what love feels like. Chapter 1. The Forest That Devours. The wind in the northern wildlands howled like a starving beast. Aria stumbled through the snow-blown trees, her breath ragged, her worn cloak soaked in sleet. Branches clawed at her skin, and her legs burned from hours of running. But still she pressed forward. Anything was better than being dragged back to the cage. She had crossed the boundary hours ago, the one the elders warned no omega should ever approach. The savage alpha's land. No one returned from it. That was the point. Let them believe the forest would kill her. Let it try. Each step deeper into the woods pulsed with dread. Shadows slithered between branches. A hush fell over the land, unnatural and absolute, as if even the wind held its breath. Her omega instincts screamed to turn back, but there was no back anymore, only forward. A wolf's howl pierced the silence, low, bone-deep, and close. Aria froze. Then, movement. To her right, a flash of mercury eyes. To her left, a growl in the mist. Her heart thundered. Panic clawed its way up her throat. She ran. Branches snapped around her. Heavy footfalls, impossibly fast, closed in. She didn't see the root that caught her boot. She hit the ground hard, air knocked from her lungs. Before she could rise, a shadow loomed over her, tall, massive. A man cloaked in fur and controlled fury stood over her. Wolf-bright eyes locked onto hers. Scars traced his jaw like old war paint. He didn't speak. He inhaled, stopped, and growled a single word that wasn't meant for her ears, but for the beast beneath his skin. "Mate!" Aria's scream caught in her throat, and the savage alpha's world, long ruled by silence and blood, shattered in one breathless instant. Her scent hit him like recognition itself, sweet and soul-shaking, unraveling years of carefully constructed solitude. The hunt was over, but the claiming had just begun. Chapter 2. The wolf who waited. Kael hadn't moved. He stood over the fallen omega, muscles taut beneath his dark cloak, breathing fast, controlled, barely. Her scent clung to him now, delicate and soul-shaking. It unraveled years of silence, of control he had carved into himself with blood and grit. She trembled beneath him. Not from cold, from fear, his wolf raged, torn between instinct and restraint. Claim her, mark her, take her. But Kael gritted his teeth and took a step back, fighting every primal urge. "Get up," he said, tone unaccustomed to gentleness. The girl flinched like he had struck her. She didn't move. Kael cursed under his breath and crouched slowly, making sure she saw every motion. Her eyes, stormy gray with flecks of ash, were wide, wary, beautiful, and filled with something that nearly brought him to his knees. Terror. Not of the forest, of him. "You crossed my border," he said. "No one does that by accident." Her lips parted. I didn't mean to. I was running." "From what?" She looked away. "Does it matter?" It did. His wolf paced under his skin, nose full of her wounded scent. It wasn't just sweet. It was fractured. Like something precious cracked under too much pressure. "You'll freeze out here," he said gruffly. "I'd rather freeze," she whispered. That stopped him cold. Kael rose, features hardening. Then, without another word, he pulled off his fur cloak and draped it over her shoulders. She blinked, stunned. "I won't touch you," he said, backing away, "but I won't let you die either." He turned and started walking toward the dark path that led deeper into the mountains. When he didn't hear her follow, he paused, glancing over his shoulder. "You coming, little wolf?" For a heartbeat, nothing. Then she stood, and followed. Kael's wolf exhaled, low and soft. It had waited long enough. Chapter 3. The Den of Silence. The path twisted like a serpent through black pines and jagged stone. Snow whispered beneath Aria's boots, muffled by the heavy fur Kael had given her. She followed him in silence, heart pounding louder than her footsteps. He didn't speak, didn't turn around, just moved with the quiet power of something not entirely human. And still, she followed. At the forest's edge, nestled beneath an outcrop of sheer cliffs, stood a fortress unlike any she had imagined. Built of dark stone and iron, it rose from the earth like it belonged there, weather-beaten, eternal, and utterly imposing. 2 massive wolves flanked the gates, carved from obsidian, their eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. Kael pushed open the doors. The interior was colder than she expected, sparse. A great hall stretched ahead, fire crackling in the hearth, casting shadows on stone walls lined with weapons. Tapestries of clawed wolves and ancient battles hung in silence. A skeleton crew remained, a healer, a few guards, echoes of what once was. He led her down a long corridor, past mostly empty rooms and locked doors, until they reached a chamber with a thick fur rug and a hearth. "You can stay here," Kael said, without looking at her. "It's warm, safe." "Where is everyone?" Aria asked, voice small. He paused. "Gone. Most died in the war. A healer and handful of guards stayed loyal." Her stomach tightened at the weight in his words. "I'll bring food," he added. "You won't be locked in." As he turned to leave, she whispered, "Why are you helping me?" He stopped in the doorway, hand braced against the stone. Then, softly, "Because when my wolf scented you, it stopped howling." He left her there, firelight flickering across her face. Aria stood alone in the room, heart tangled with fear and something more dangerous, hope. For the first time in years, a door hadn't locked behind her. And for the first time, the cold didn't feel quite as sharp. Chapter 4. The Alpha Who Doesn't Touch the Fortress slept in silence. Aria sat near the hearth, Kael's heavy cloak still wrapped around her. The fire's glow cast golden light on her fingers. Thin, scarred, trembling less than before. Sleep came in fits, her body too used to vigilance, her mind still whispering warnings. She heard his steps before he appeared. Heavy, measured, controlled. Kael entered carrying a tray. The scent of roasted meat and root vegetables filled the room, making her stomach clench with hunger. He didn't speak, just set it down on the table and backed away. She blinked. "You're not eating." "I already did." A pause. "You don't have to stay," she said cautiously. "I'm not going to run." His mouth compressed. "I'm not here to guard you. I just didn't want you to eat alone." Her throat tightened at the unexpected kindness. She picked up the bread, hands shaking slightly. When he made no move to approach, she asked the question that had haunted her since the forest. "Why haven't you touched me?" His quicksilver gaze met hers, piercing, unreadable. "Because you're afraid," he said simply, "and because I'm not a monster." Aria swallowed. "They say you are. They say many things." She hesitated, then whispered, "Are they true?" Kael's tone dropped to something darker. "They're true enough. I've killed. I've ruled through fear when necessary, but I don't force what isn't given." His wolf stirred beneath his skin. Her scent was maddening, pure, soft, broken in places, but he stood frozen, willing the bond to stay dormant. "Thank you," she said after a long silence. He nodded once, then left, closing the door gently behind him. Aria exhaled, heart thudding, not from fear but from confusion. He was supposed to be cruel. Instead, he was silent, watchful, unexpectedly gentle, and her wolf, buried deep within, whispered a word she refused to hear. Mate. Chapter 5. A Fortress of Ghosts. The next morning, the fortress felt more like a tomb than a home. Aria stepped into the hallway, wrapped in Kael's cloak, the stone floors cold beneath her bare feet. The fire in her room had long gone out, but the scent of pine smoke clung to the walls. She wandered carefully, unsure if she was allowed or expected to leave. No one stopped her, because few remained to stop her. Room after room stood mostly abandoned, long banquet tables coated in dust, armor stands left untouched, portraits with slashed canvases and burned corners. Each space whispered of lives once lived and violently lost. She found a locked door with claw marks gouged into the frame, another with dried blood staining the hinges. And at the far end of the hall, a chamber that still smelled of lavender and something soft, feminine. She didn't go inside. Instead, she turned back and almost collided with a woman. Older, sharp-eyed, with hair like woven snow and hands marked with healing salves. "You must be the Omega," the woman said, tone clipped but not unkind. Aria stiffened. "Who are you?" "I'm Aria, the healer, the last of Kael's inner circle." Aria relaxed, just slightly. "Is he always like this?" Aria gave her a long, thoughtful look. "He wasn't, once, before the betrayal? Before the war, before his wolf turned dangerous." "What happened?" Aria asked softly. "He lost everyone, all at once." Aria's eyes darkened. "And his brother made sure the pain never faded." Aria's lungs seized. "Lucan." Aria nodded. "Yes, and if he learns Kael has bonded, he will come." A chill swept down Aria's spine. Aria took her hand gently. "You don't have to stay, but if you do, understand this. You're the first thing to calm Kael's wolf in years." Aria looked back down the hallway, toward the room Kael had disappeared into. The fortress wasn't haunted by ghosts. It was kept standing by a man who hadn't let himself fall, because some part of him had been waiting. For her. Chapter 6. The Scent of Memory. Kael sat alone in the war room, the firelight casting red along the jagged scar at his jaw. Maps lay strewn across the table. Old patrol routes, enemy sigils, dried bloodstains he had never bothered to scrub out. But his eyes weren't on the maps. They were closed, and all he could breathe was her scent. Soft, clean, untouched, but not naive. There was something beneath it, pain buried so deep it had laced itself into her very essence. And that made it unbearable, because the more he smelled her, the more his wolf responded. Not with hunger, with recognition. "Mate," it whispered again, low and primal. Kael gripped the edge of the table until the wood cracked. He couldn't take her, not like this, not until she wanted it. But that scent, it clung to his skin, haunted his every breath. Every heartbeat now beat in rhythm with hers, and he hadn't even touched her. The door creaked. He turned sharply, but it was only Ronan, his beta, tall and silent, eyes sharp. "She's walking the halls," Ronan said. "No guards, no command." Kael didn't answer. Ronan stepped closer. "You haven't claimed her." Kael's glare darkened. "I won't." Ronan blinked. "You've waited years for this." "She's terrified of her own shadow," Kael snapped. "What kind of monster would I be if I added myself to her fears?" The room fell quiet. "She's not what they sent me," he muttered. "She's light, fragile." Ronan studied him. "And yet, you burn." Kael closed his eyes. "I burn because she's the only thing that calms me." Down the corridor, Aria stood silently outside the door, one hand pressed to the stone. She couldn't hear their words, but she didn't need to. His scent was thick in the air, storm wild, controlled barely, wrapped in longing. And for the first time, her fear didn't surge. Something else did. A question. Not what is he, but what am I to him? Chapter 7. The bond tests the flesh. The snow had stopped by morning, leaving the world silver and still. Aria stood in the courtyard, wrapped in Kael's oversized cloak, staring at the mountains beyond the wall. Her breathing misted in the cold. The silence around her wasn't oppressive today. It was oddly peaceful. Behind her, the fortress door opened. She didn't need to turn. She knew it was him. Kael's presence filled the air before his voice ever did. "You'll freeze." "I'm used to it," she murmured. He stepped beside her, keeping a careful distance. His eyes never left the horizon. They stood in silence, two wounded creatures pretending not to ache. "You're not what I expected," she said softly. "Good," Kael muttered. Aria tilted her head toward him. "You won't touch me. You won't order me. You barely speak. And yet..." He met her gaze, slowly, warily. "I don't feel unsafe." That did something to him. His throat worked, but no sound came. Then, words roughened with emotion. "Do you want me to touch you?" Aria's pulse stuttered. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, uncertain, curious. "I don't know," she whispered. Kael's eyes closed. His voice shook. "Then I won't. Not until you say yes. Not until you ask. The bond flared between them, thick with unspoken hunger. Her scent pulsed with warmth, awakening a protective instinct so violent, his hands trembled to keep them still. But before either could move, a horn echoed from the northern watchtower. Kael stiffened. Footsteps approached fast. Ronan, snow on his cloak and blood on his knuckles. Scout spotted a sigil near the pass, he growled. Lucan's banner. Aria's blood ran cold. Kael turned to her, something ancient and dangerous in his wolf-bright stare. He's coming. She didn't ask who. She already knew. The man who once owned her. The man Kael had vowed to kill. The brother who had destroyed everything Kael once held dear. Chapter 8. The Scar Beneath the Throne. Kael slammed the war room doors shut behind him, teeth clenched, mercury eyes burning. Aria stood near the hearth, frozen, the echo of Ronan's words still in her ears. Lucan. Even the name made her skin crawl. Kael didn't speak at first. He paced like a storm barely held back, his wolf prowling just beneath the surface. Finally, he turned to her. You knew him, he said. Not a question. Aria nodded once. I belong to him. The silence was suffocating. I was taken at 13, she continued. Voice hollow. He called it a gift. Said my scent was rare, that I'd calm his wolf. But I never did. For 5 years, I lived in his compound. Kael's hands curled into fists. He never marked me, she added quickly. He wanted to wait until I submitted completely. Kael's growl rumbled deep and low. And did you? No. Her chin lifted slightly. I ran before he could break me. He crossed the room in 2 strides, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. I should have torn his throat out years ago, he whispered. Aria looked up at him, something unreadable flickering in her gaze. Why didn't you? Kael's tone hardened. Because he was blood, my half-brother, and killing him would have cost my pack everything. She blinked. Kael exhaled. But I don't have a pack anymore, just this place, and you. The fire snapped behind them, throwing flickers of gold across his scarred face. I don't want your fear, he said softly. I want your choice, and I'll kill anyone who tries to take it from you again. Air trapped in Aria's throat, not from terror, from something else entirely. For the first time, she believed it wasn't just his wolf that claimed her. It was him. Kael turned away before she could answer, his words low. You'll stay in the inner rooms, guarded. No one enters unless I bleed first. He walked out, shoulders tight with controlled fury. And for the first time, Aria didn't feel like prey. She felt protected. Chapter 9. The Storm Before the Moon. The storm rolled in without warning, sleet pounding against the stone walls, wind howling like wolves in mourning. Inside the fortress, the flames burned hotter, casting long, wavering shadows. Kael stood at the edge of the balcony, cloak whipping behind him, eyes fixed on the tree line. He hadn't slept, not since Lucan's banner had been seen. His wolf stalked within him, restless, demanding. It didn't care for war strategies or alliances. It cared only for the trembling Omega asleep in his fortress. Claim her, protect her, keep her. But Kael had seen what obsession did. He had watched Lucan break Omegas like glass in the name of possession. He would never become that. Still, her scent filled every corridor. A quiet sweetness, laced with defiance and something new, courage. A door creaked. He turned, half ready to send Ronan away, only to find her. Aria stood in the doorway of his chamber, barefoot, the firelight catching the strands of her hair. She didn't flinch at his gaze this time. I couldn't sleep, she whispered. Kael's tone was a graveled hush. You shouldn't be here. I know. He stared at her, unsure whether to step closer or back away. She took a step toward him. I'm not here to offer myself, she said quickly. I need to know if staying here will put you at risk. He blinked. Me? You said he's your brother, she murmured. That means Lucan will come for both of us. His features hardened. Let him come. Aria hesitated. What if you're wolf? What if you can't control it? He stepped forward, slow and deliberate. Then you speak my name, not his, not anyone else's, mine. She didn't retreat. Instead, she whispered, Kael. and his wolf stilled, just like that. Her voice, small but certain, anchored him in place. Neither of them moved, but something between them shifted. And this time, Aria didn't feel like prey. She felt like power. Chapter 10. The first touch that wasn't feared. The storm quieted by dawn, leaving the world outside cloaked in ice. But inside Kael's chamber, something far more fragile had thawed. Aria hadn't slept. Neither had Kael. They stood in silence by the hearth, the only sound the crackle of wood and the shared rhythm of breathing. He hadn't moved since she said his name. She hadn't left. Kael's arms were crossed, fists clenched at his sides. His control had frayed in the night, his wolf pacing just beneath the surface. Her scent, so near, so willing, tormented him. Yet he hadn't touched her, wouldn't. Unless she asked, and then, she did. "I want to understand," she whispered. Words a trembling thread of courage. Not everything, just what it feels like to not fear this. She stepped closer, uncertain but deliberate. "May I?" Kael's throat worked. "Yes." Slowly, Aria raised her hand and pressed it to his chest. Not to his arm, not to the safety of leather or cloak. To him, to the heat of his skin beneath the layers. Over the heart that thundered inside a man the world called dangerous. Kael's breathing stuttered. Her fingers were cold, but her touch was warm, light as snowfall and just as disarming. Her eyes met his. Nothing in her gaze said submission. Everything in it said choice. And for the first time, Kael's wolf didn't roar. It sighed, soft and deep, like a beast finally seen. He closed his hand around hers, not to pull, not to possess, just to feel. "You make the rules," he said, voice hoarse. "I only follow." A tear slipped down Aria's cheek, not from fear, from relief. He hadn't broken her walls. He had waited for her to open them. Outside, the wind shifted. Far to the north, Lucan's forces began to move. But inside the den of the savage alpha, trust had been born. Not with dominance, with patience. And the softest touch in the world. Chapter 11. The Council of Teeth. The fortress gates groaned open at dawn, revealing a rider cloaked in white, bearing the wax seal of the Alpha High Council. Ronan accepted the scroll with suspicion, handing it to Kael in the war room moments later. His Alpha sliced the ribbon with a clawed thumbnail, eyes sharp as a blade. Aria watched from a corner, wrapped in furs, her fingers clutching the teacup Aria had given her. As Kael read, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. He folded the parchment slowly, deliberately. "Lucan has summoned the council," Ronan stiffened. "On what grounds?" Kael's tone was calm, too calm. "He claims I'm sheltering a bonded Omega who was once marked as his possession." Aria's blood ran cold. "I was never marked," she whispered. "Doesn't matter," Kael muttered. "If he's rallied the council, he'll push for a purity trial. Demand I present you. They'll test your scent, your bond, your body. They'll dress it up in ceremony, but it's nothing short of a hunt." Ronan slammed his hand on the table. "They'll never touch her." Kael turned to Aria, his eyes haunted. "They'll demand you submit to their examination. If I refuse, they'll strip my claim and come for you anyway." She stood slowly, trembling. "Then what do we do?" Kael looked at her, not as a fragile thing, but as a partner. "We make a choice," he said. "Hide you, or fight." Her lips parted. "If we hide, they'll think I'm guilty. And if we fight," he said quietly, "they'll make you prove you're not." A heavy silence fell. Finally, Aria spoke. "Then let them come." Kael blinked. "What?" "If they want a trial," she whispered, "they'll see me standing, not cowering." He stared at her, pride and fear battling in his mercury gaze. "You were never meant to be hidden," he said. Words like thunder wrapped in reverence. She stepped to his side, no longer shaking. "And you were never meant to fight alone." Chapter 12. Trial by Scent. The council arrived at dusk. 7 alphas in ceremonial armor, their wolves straining beneath skins perfumed with dominance and politics. They didn't bow when Kael greeted them. He hadn't expected them to. The leader, Lord Silas, stepped forward, gray-bearded and cold-eyed. "You claim the Omega as your mate, yet she bears no mark." She bears my choice, Kael said flatly. Then let us verify her. The words rang like a blade unsheathed. Aria stood behind Kael in the great hall, spine straight despite the tremor in her limbs. She wore the simple white shift they demanded. Her hair braided back, no cosmetics, no scent-masking oils. Only herself. Her wolf trembled beneath her skin, but not from fear. From memory. 3 council members approached, instructed not to touch, but to assess her scent from a measured distance, like wolves inspecting prey. Kael's fists clenched. Lord Silas gestured forward. Step into the circle, Omega. Aria obeyed. One by one, they circled her. Inhaling, assessing, whispering. Untouched. No false bond. But something else. A rare sweetness. Stabilizing. His mouth compressed. That was what Lucan had always wanted. Her sense effect. Its ability to soothe even the most dangerous of wolves. That included him. When Silas turned to Kael, his tone sharpened. Do you claim her still, despite her lack of mark? Kael didn't flinch. I do. And do you swear your control remains intact? That you did not coerce her scent into blooming? Aria stepped forward before Kael could answer. I came here by accident, she said clearly. But I stayed by choice. This bond isn't forced, it's earned. Gasps rippled through the room. The council hadn't expected her to speak. They certainly hadn't expected her to defy them. Silas's gaze narrowed. Then let the gods test your word. If your bond is true, it will deepen under stress. Kael's wolf surged beneath his skin. Stress meant threat. And Kael knew what was coming next. A challenge, not by ritual, but by force. Chapter 13. The Feral Beneath the Crown. The council's decree rang across the frost-chilled hall. To prove your claim, Alpha Kael must face a challenger, one chosen by this council. If your bond is real, your wolf will fight not from rage, but purpose. Air trapped in Aria's throat. She knew what they were doing. They wanted to provoke Kael, to draw the beast out. If he lost control, their claim to invalidate the mating would be justified. Kael stepped forward, wolf-bright eyes gleaming. Name the challenger. From behind Silas, a young alpha stepped into the ring, lean, fast, his wolf practically vibrating with anticipation. His name was Garen. A pup from the southern teeth, trained for speed and blood sport. This is madness, Ronan hissed. You're twice his size, but they want him to goad your wolf into a frenzy. One wrong move? I know, Kael growled. Aria gripped the edge of the platform, heart pounding. The hall emptied to form a wide circle. Fires blazed. The scent of anticipation and dominance hung heavy. Kael stripped off his cloak, scars gleaming in the firelight. Garen cracked his knuckles, grinning like a fool. The signal came. Garen struck first, fast, vicious, aiming straight for Kael's throat. Kael dodged, barely. The younger alpha pressed forward, slashing, taunting. Heard your Omega cried in the night. Couldn't keep her quiet, could you? Kael didn't answer. He ducked, drove a fist into Garen's ribs, then stepped back. His wolf howled inside him. Mark. Protect. Kill. But he didn't. He held. Every move precise. Controlled. Aria saw the war in his eyes, the razor edge he walked to protect her, not just with strength, with restraint. Finally, Kael caught Garen's throat and slammed him to the ground. Hard, but he didn't finish it. He stepped back. I don't need to kill to prove my bond, he growled. Only a coward does. The room went still. Lord Silas rose, face unreadable. Bond. Recognized. Aria's knees nearly gave as relief rushed through her. Kael didn't look at the council. He looked at her, not as a prize won, but as a vow kept. Chapter 14. The Broken Mark. The sound of boots echoed through the hall, slow, deliberate, confident. Lucan had arrived. Aria turned as the crowd parted for the newcomer. Tall, handsome in a cruel way, dressed in obsidian leather and lined with gold. His eyes, pale blue and sharp, swept over the room and landed on her. His smirk was slow. So, you did survive. Kael stepped in front of her before Lucan could take another step. Lucan raised a brow. No greeting for your brother, Kael. You forfeited that title the moment you touched her. Aria stiffened. Lucan's tone turned syrupy. Touched? Oh no, little wolf, I claimed her. She was 13, Kael growled. She was mine, Lucan snapped. Unmarked, yes, but that doesn't change what was promised. Her scent was pure, valuable, strong enough to stabilize even a cursed wolf. You mean you, Kael said coldly. The one your own pack had to sedate for years. Lucan's smile vanished. You want her for power, Kael continued. Not love, not even desire, just control. Don't pretend you're different, Lucan hissed. You feel it too. That pull. You think because she chose you, it makes you better? Aria stepped out from behind Kael, voice steady. He didn't chain me or break me. He waited. Lucan's gaze sharpened. So this is your rebellion? Choosing a half-feral alpha over a prince? She chose freedom, Kael said. Silas lifted a hand. This dispute is political now. Lucan requests judgment. His claim predates yours. Aria paled. Kael bared his teeth. He has no mark on her, no bond. She was a child. Silas looked between them. Then let the gods judge. Under moonlight, let both alphas bring their wolves. Let the bond reveal itself. A trial of wolves. Kael nodded once. So be it. Lucan's gaze flicked to Aria, hunger laced with malice. One way or another, little mate. You'll kneel. Aria met his stare. Never again. Kael placed a hand gently on her back, guiding her away. This wasn't just about claiming anymore. It was about cleansing. Chapter 15. The trial of Wolves moonrise fell over the Frostfang courtyard, like a verdict. Torches ringed the packed snow, casting light on the sacred stone circle where dominance, truth, and blood were tested. Above, the full moon glared, cold, ancient, impartial. Aria stood at the edge of the ring, wrapped in white, silent, watching, waiting. Kael stood bare-chested, scars a roadmap of old wars, quicksilver eyes locked on the figure across from him, Lucan. He had stripped his civility like armor. His wolf coiled beneath his skin, snarling at the promise of violence. Lord Silas raised his staff. Let instinct decide what words cannot. When the moon breaks the clouds, your wolves will rise. The stronger bond will survive. Kael exhaled, his breathing misting in the air. He could feel his wolf, tight, furious, protective, but he couldn't afford rage. Not now, not with Aria watching. Across the circle, Lucan smirked. Ready to lose your other half, brother? Kael didn't answer. The clouds parted. The moon broke through. Both alphas shifted simultaneously. Fur exploded. Bones cracked. Snarls ripped into the night. Kael's wolf was massive, midnight dark with silver streaks and eyes of molten steel. Lucan's was leaner, all speed and cruelty, coat like a frost-burned flame. They collided, claws slashed, teeth snapped, snow turned red. Lucan was fast, but Kael was anchored. His wolf wasn't just fighting for dominance, it was fighting for her. Every time Lucan feinted toward the edge, toward Aria, Kael answered with controlled precision, driving him back. The crowd howled. And then, Lucan bit Kael's shoulder hard enough to draw blood. Aria flinched. Kael didn't. He twisted free and slammed his brother down, claws at Lucan's exposed neck. He could kill him, end this, but instead, he stepped back. Let the council see. He wouldn't win through death. Only the truth. Kael's wolf turned to Aria, and she stepped forward. Moonlight shimmered across her face as she whispered, "Come back to me." Kael shifted back, trembling, bloodied, whole. Lucan didn't rise. Silas spoke. The bond has chosen. And this time, no one argued. Chapter 16. The Healer's Prophecy. The aftermath of the trial settled over Frostfang like snowfall. Quiet, deceptive, laced with tension. Lucan had been carried away, conscious but defeated, escorted by his remaining wolves under heavy council guard. The tribunal disbanded at dawn. Their verdict final. Kael's bond with Aria was true, but truth didn't silence danger. Aria found Aria in the healing chambers later that morning, watching Kael sleep. His wounds were deep, though already knitting. "You should rest," Aria murmured. Aria shook her head. "I can't. Not while he's like this." The healer knelt beside her, ancient eyes soft. "You love him." Aria hesitated, then nodded. Aria studied her carefully. You need to know, your scent is not just rare. It's legend. Aria blinked. What? Aria retrieved a weathered scroll from her satchel. She unrolled it, revealing a faded crest, 2 wolves entwined beneath a crescent moon. This symbol belonged to a bloodline long thought extinct. Omegas born under the eclipse moon. Their scent could balance feral wolves, calm madness, heal broken bonds. Aria stared. But I'm not. You are, Aria said gently. Your mother was one. She vanished before the war. She likely hid you, maybe didn't even know what she was carrying. Aria's heart pounded. That's why Lucan wanted me, why Kael's wolf only responds to you. Aria nodded. It's not magic, it's instinct. But if others find out, they'll try to control you, Aria said softly, or destroy you if they cannot. Aria looked at Kael, pale and scarred, even in sleep. I won't run again, she whispered. Not this time. Aria placed a warm hand over hers. Then you must be ready. Because Lucan was the beginning, not the end. Aria stood slowly. She wasn't just Kael's mate now. She was something older, rarer. The next storm was coming, but this time she would meet it with claws of her own. Chapter 17. A Crown of Ashes. The letter arrived at midday, carried by a raven cloaked in gray silk. Kael read it in silence, standing in the war room beside Ronan and Aria. Aria entered just as he lowered the parchment, his features set in stone. What is it? She asked. Ronan scowled. Council summons. Kael's words were low. They're holding a formal tribunal, for Lucan, in the capital. Aria's lungs seized. They want you to testify? Kael nodded. As both alpha and bloodkin. I'm to speak on whether Lucan's crimes warrant permanent exile or death. Aria's lips thinned. And the trap? Kael handed the letter to Aria. She read the final lines aloud, voice shaking. The Omega Aria shall not accompany the Alpha to the capital. Her presence will disrupt balance and provoke instability among bonded courts, Ronan growled. Cowards. They fear what she represents. They want to separate us, Kael said. Quiet fury in every syllable. Isolate me. Prove they still control our fate. Aria's throat tightened. Will you go? I have to, Kael replied. If I refuse, they'll rule in Lucan's favor by default. It'll be seen as weakness, or worse, guilt. Silence pressed around them. Finally, Aria stepped forward. Then I'll stay, but only if you promise one thing. Kael turned to her, eyes heavy. Promise me you'll return. He took her hand, pressing it to his chest. Over the scar, over the heartbeat that belonged to her now. I will return, he said, with fire if I must. That night, Aria stood at the gates as Kael rode out with Ronan and a small guard. Snow fell, and though she did not cry, the mark beneath her skin, silent, hidden, ached with the distance. He was heading toward politics sharpened into blades. If they tried to break him again, she would burn down every council hall to bring him home. Her training would begin tomorrow. The Luna of Frostfang would not wait defenseless. Chapter 18. The Luna's Vigil. The days stretched cold without Kael. Aria moved through the halls of Frostfang like a queen in mourning, silent, watchful, never idle. She walked the perimeter daily, memorizing the mountain's defenses, trained with Ronan's remaining warriors in secret, listened to Aria's counsel, but every night she returned alone to the Alpha's den. His scent lingered, so did the bonds ache. She clutched the stone Kael had left behind, a polished obsidian talisman etched with their crest, and whispered to it like a prayer. Come back to me. On the 4th night, the gates sounded an alarm. A lone rider collapsed just inside the warding lines, bloodied, half-conscious, marked with the crest of Kael's old pack. The guards brought him to the infirmary, and Aria was there before he opened his eyes. He blinked up at her, recognition flashing. You're the Luna. She didn't correct him. He coughed blood. They're not just trying to convict Lucan. They're laying groundwork for Kael's removal, whispering that his bond has made him weak, tame. Aria's stomach turned. Who sent you? No one, the man rasped. I owed Kael a life debt from the war. I thought it was repaid, until I saw what they were planning. Aria's pulse raced. Will they kill him? Not yet, he said. But if they can't shame him politically, they'll provoke him, make him lose control, and if that fails, there are whispers of poison. Aria stepped forward, alarmed. You need to rest. No time, the man groaned. They've already dispatched a shadow envoy. Not to him, to you. Aria's blood ran cold. They mean to take you quietly, he finished, while his back is turned. The room fell silent. Then Aria stood, straighter than before. Let them come, she said. This time I won't hide. I'll meet them at the gates. Because she was no longer prey. She was the Luna of Frostfang. And she had learned to bite back. Chapter 19. The Hunt Comes Home. They came at midnight, silent, precise, dressed like shadows, reeking of ashroot and bitterroot, scent suppressants, professional, deadly. But Frostfang had changed. So had its Luna. Aria stood barefoot in the war room when the alarms failed to ring. She had felt the shift. Too quiet, too still. Wolves don't need sirens when their instincts scream. She moved fast, cloak flying, talisman around her neck. The remaining guards were already waiting in the northern hall, swords drawn. They breached the east wing, one growled. 2 packs, maybe more, coordinated. They're after me, Aria said, voice steady. Lure them where we want. He blinked. You're the target. I'm also the trap. Before anyone could protest, she was gone, slipping into the tunnels beneath the fortress, the old mining shafts that Kael had once mapped by memory. She lit no torch. Her wolf didn't need one. The assassins followed scent trails laid by false decoys, cloaks soaked in her oils, hidden under beds and doors. But Aria? Aria waited, in the chapel ruins, where the moonlight cut through stone and the silence pulsed like a heartbeat. When the first assassin entered, blade glinting, Aria struck. Her dagger plunged into his side, not lethal but loud. His scream drew the others. They poured in, expecting fear. They found fury. The remaining guards crashed in from behind, flanking with silent precision. The chapel became a cage. By dawn, it was over. Blood soaked the ancient floor. Aria stood in the center, breathing hard, untouched. A guard approached, wiping his blade. You were supposed to draw them out, not take the first one yourself. I needed to know I could, she said. And she had. The trembling Omega was gone. In her place stood a Luna forged by fire, no longer just Kael's, but Frostfang's. A howl rose from the cliffs, not mourning, but warning. Come again, and face the teeth of the mountain. Chapter 20. The Alpha on Trial. The council hall of elders loomed like a tomb. Kael stood alone before the crescent dais, scarred, blood still seeping from wounds barely a week old. His quicksilver eyes burned, but his posture was regal, unshaken. He would not bow. Lord Malric, now presiding High Elder, leaned forward. You were summoned to testify regarding your half-brother's crimes. Instead, you arrived bloodied, without escort, and with the stench of rebellion in your wake. Kael said nothing. Malric sneered. Do you deny that your claimed mate, the Omega, known as Aria, incited violence in Frostfang? She defended her life, Kael replied coldly. Against assassins sent by someone in this chamber. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Malric bared his teeth. Mind your tongue, rogue. You stand here by grace, not right. I stand because I earned it. In blood, in exile, in battle. His tone echoed. And I will not let you rewrite the truth. A second elder rose. Then speak it. Is she your fated mate? Kael looked toward the high windows, where moonlight filtered in pale and unwavering. Yes. Do you intend to mark her officially? Yes. Then hear this final decree. Malric stood. Should you bind yourself to her, this eclipse-born, your claim to alpha sovereignty will be revoked, your title stripped. You will be no more than a rogue in the wild. The hall fell silent, his mouth compressed. They wanted obedience, they wanted fear, but they had chosen the wrong wolf. I do not need your crown, he said, words low and thunderous. I will burn it for kindling before I let you dictate my bond. You choose the Omega over the realm? Malric asked, stunned. Kael's eyes gleamed. I choose her. She is my realm. A storm of outrage followed, but he turned and walked from the chamber, unbroken. Outside, Ronan waited. They'll declare you rogue. Kael mounted his horse. Then let them hunt me, because this war was no longer about politics. It was about love, and the exiled king had made his choice. Chapter 21. The Rogue and His Luna. The moment Kael crossed Frostfang's border, the howl went up. Not alarm. Welcome. He rode hard through the mountain pass, cloak snapping behind him, snow thick beneath his horse's hooves. The fortress came into view, taller, stronger than before. Watchtowers reinforced. Guard lines doubled. He blinked. Then the gates opened, and Aria stood at the center. Her hood was thrown back. Her auburn hair was braided in Luna's weave, layered with silver thread. Around her neck glowed the obsidian talisman he had given her. She was no longer waiting. She was leading. Kael dismounted as she crossed to him without hesitation. "You're early," she said softly. "You're ready," he murmured back. "I had to be." He took her hand. "They've stripped my title, branded me rogue. Any pack that harbors me commits treason." Aria didn't flinch. "Then I suppose Frostfang is a den of traitors." He stared at her, emotion tightening his features. "You don't have to choose this." "I already did," she said. "When I put a blade in an assassin's ribs, when I stood in that chapel and faced wolves who came to kill me, when I stayed." Around them wolves gathered. Warriors, healers, servants, beatas. None bowed. Instead, one by one, they placed their fists over their hearts. To her, to him, to them. Ronan approached last. "You may not be Alpha anymore, Kael, but you're still ours. And she's earned every howl." Kael turned to Aria, words low. "They'll come for us." Aria met his gaze. "Let them." He exhaled, then knelt, not before the pack, but before her. "Then Luna of Frostfang, will you bind yourself to a rogue king?" She cupped his face. "Only if you promise never to kneel again." He stood, lips finding hers, under the watchful moon. And the fortress howled, not in mourning, but in allegiance. Frostfang no longer bowed to the council. It bowed to love. Chapter 22. Moonbound. The sacred chamber was carved into the mountain's heart, stone walls lined with wolf sigils, candles flickering like stardust. It had not been used in decades. Not since Frostfang last witnessed a true mating bond. Now it would hold history. Aria stood before the moonlit basin, robed in silver silk. Her pulse was steady, but her thoughts raced. Tonight wasn't just a ritual, it was a vow. One no council could erase. Kael entered, wearing ceremonial leather marked with ancient runes. Scars across his chest glowed faintly in the candlelight. He looked more wolf than man, untamed, reverent. "You're sure?" he asked. She nodded. "There's nothing left to fear." They stepped into the basin's circle. The remaining elders of Frostfang stood watch, but said nothing. No one officiated. The bond would speak for itself. Kael took her hands. "This isn't just about power or defiance." "I know," she whispered. "It's about you." His tone dropped to a growl. "And how my wolf only sleeps when you're near." Aria's lips curved. "Then stay near forever." He leaned forward, brushing his forehead to hers. The bond flared, heat and ice, stars and roots. It wasn't fire. It was recognition. Their marks pulsed simultaneously, matching, complete. The mating bond sealed. The fortress howled. But above, a raven stirred. No mountain bird, but council marked. In the upper rafters, a figure hidden in priest's robes tightened his grip on the blade strapped to his thigh. The bond was too strong now to break by distance. Only death could sever it. He moved, quiet as dust, slipping through tunnels toward Kael's den, where Aria would sleep after the ceremony. He didn't need to kill her, just cut her. Let her blood prove that rogues could never protect what they loved. But Frostfang had changed, and the Luna he stalked was no longer prey. She had learned to hunt. Chapter 23. The Assassin's Mistake. The moon had long passed its peak when Aria stirred in Kael's den. Cold air crept along the stone floor. Wrong? Unnatural. Her eyes opened just as the shadow moved, slow and silent, approaching the bed. Steel glinted. Instinct roared. She rolled, grabbing the ceremonial blade from beneath the pillows. The assassin lunged, slicing through the blankets where she had just been. Aria's training with the guards surged forward. She ducked, slashed upward, cutting across the man's forearm. He hissed, staggering. "You're supposed to be asleep," he snarled. "I've spent too many years sleeping through danger," she snapped, words steady despite the adrenaline in her veins. Kael's absence was immediate, his warmth, his protection, but she was still here, and she had teeth. The assassin struck again, but Aria blocked with a chair leg, driving it into his gut. He crashed backward into the wall. She didn't wait. She ran toward the corridor, calling for the guards. The hall flared with torches. Ronan arrived first, blade drawn, eyes widening at the sight of her bloodied arm and the figure charging after her. He didn't hesitate. One throw. Steel buried in the man's throat. The assassin dropped without a sound. Aria stood panting, staring at the body. Ronan approached slowly. "Are you hurt?" She nodded once. "But not badly." He glanced at the blade still in her grip. "You defended yourself." "I protected what matters." She looked toward the bond mark etched into her skin, warm, unbroken, pulsing faintly with Kael's distant heartbeat. Ronan's expression shifted from concern to respect. "He'll kill whoever sent that man," he said. "No," Aria said quietly. "We will." Because this wasn't an isolated attack. It was war, and she would fight beside her mate, blade in hand, shoulders squared. They had tried to kill the Luna, but they had only awakened the wolf inside her, and this wolf had learned to bite back. Chapter 24. The Rise of the Savage Queen. Kael rode into Frostfang under a blood-colored dawn. He had felt it through the bond, pain, adrenaline, then silence, not death, but danger. He hadn't waited for permission to leave the capital, hadn't explained his exit. He had simply vanished from their polished halls like smoke and shadow, returning to the only place that mattered. His home, his mate. He burst into the fortress, Ronan at his side. The scent of blood hit first, fresh, sharp, metallic. Not hers, but close. "Where is she?" he demanded. "In the council hall," Ronan said. "Alive?" "More than alive," Ronan replied grimly. "Go see." Kael entered the hall with his wolf pressing just beneath his skin, and stopped. Aria stood at the head of the long table, dressed in black leathers, her injured arm freshly bandaged, eyes storm-steady. Before her lay the assassin's cloak and blade, evidence of treachery. Behind her stood half the pack, weapons in hand, faces solemn. She turned slowly. "You came." He strode to her, cupping her face, scanning for injuries. "He touched you." "Not for long," she murmured. His features hardened. "I should have been here." "You taught me to survive," she said. "Now let me help you finish this." He stared into her eyes. Not fear, not fragility, fury, fire, loyalty. She stepped forward, words clear. "The council thinks they can kill us quietly, strip us slowly. But they've forgotten who we are." Her gaze swept the pack. "We are wolves, and they will hear our howls in their golden halls." The warriors roared in agreement. Kael smiled, slow and dangerous. "I left as a rogue," he said, gripping her hand. Aria lifted his arm, displaying the unbroken bond mark. "And now?" "Now," she said. "You ride beside your Luna." Together they turned to their people. "Prepare the packs," Kael commanded. "We march on the capital." Because this wasn't a rebellion. This was justice with teeth, and the Savage Queen would lead them. No longer hidden, no longer afraid, ready to reclaim what was theirs. Chapter 25. The Soul Remembers. The capital gates never closed until Frostfang approached, 600 strong, wolves in formation, banners snapping. At the front rode Kael, no longer cloaked in exile, but flanked by warriors and his Luna. Aria. She wore armor trimmed in moonstone, her mark visible, her eyes unflinching. She did not ride behind him. She rode beside. The council met them in the grand forum, guards flanking every pillar. High Elder Malric stood at the center, already scowling. "You come in force," he said. "We come with truth," Kael replied. "And law," Aria added. "The law of the bond. The one you tried to break with steel. Malric sneered. You expect forgiveness for insubordination? I expect nothing, Kael said, because we're done asking. Aria stepped forward and unsheathed the assassin's blade, throwing it to the council's feet. You sent death into our home. That cannot be proven, Malric snapped. But another voice rose. From the shadows stepped Aria, healer of Frostfang. Behind her, the surviving assassin's brother, a council scout, limped forward, shame on his face. I saw the orders, he rasped. I followed them, until I saw what they truly were. Silence. Malric paled. Kael bared his teeth. This council is no longer worthy to lead. Gasps rose, but none dared interrupt when Aria raised her voice. You call me weak because I am Omega. But I withstood cages, assassins, council blades. I walked into your court without armor, and still I did not bow. Her eyes burned. So tell me who truly leads. Behind them, the wolves howled. It wasn't a rebellion, it was a rebirth. The council faltered, then knelt, not to power, but to the truth standing in front of them, bonded, whole, and unshakable. Kael turned to Aria. You once asked if my soul knew your name. She smiled. And he leaned close. It will never forgot. And under the moon, he claimed her again, not with claws, but with a kiss. Not savage, not broken, just theirs, forever. She had found her alpha. And together, they would rewrite the laws of the wild.